Welcome back, everyone, to the House of Bricks podcast. And joining me today is the All the Way in Pos, Kellen Fife. Kellen has a podcast called the All the Way in Podcast, which brings on college athletes to talk about college sports. And now faith is being integrated, correct?
Yes.
Cool. Today we are talking about the Ultimate Training Camp Special. We're about 2 hours out from the special. Breezy's over here making faces. But man, what the Ultimate Training Camp is, it's something I've covered in past episodes. And the Ultimate Training Camp is a camp where athletes from all over the country experience God in a new way, learn how to implement their faith into their sport and their life. And it is a camp that goes on at St. Thomas and also Colorado Boulder once a summer. And what this special is a big day, a part of the Ultimate Training Camp, where it is basically a 20-hour workout and team competition, that involves a draft and customizing your uniforms and all sorts of those things. But it is something that Kellen and I have experienced. Kellen did it 2 summers ago, and I did it last summer. And we both experienced it in both different ways, but incredible ways. So we just wanted to come on and do a little collab. I met Kellen the other day, and we made the connection that we both have a podcast. So we both talk about athletes and faith on it. So we thought it would be awesome to bring on a guy and a girl that are going to experience the special for the first time, and talk about pre-thoughts going into the special, and then come back for a little second half of the episode and talk about post-thoughts. Your voices will probably sound a little bit more tired on the second part. But yeah, you want to introduce them?
Sure. Okay, so like you said, I have my own podcast, All the Way In, and I started it like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and I talk about college athletes and what it's like to be a college athlete, all the things about college sports. So I'm very excited to be here, and we'll kind of introduce you guys. So first of all, how are you guys feeling? Excited to be here?
Yeah, really excited to be here. A little anxious.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yes, we'll do intro. So share your name. Yeah. You can share like a little bit about you, and then we'll get started.
Yeah. My name's Jake Bracewell. Let's see. How do I summarize this? Born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. I played baseball through college. My story was that I actually didn't really have any kind of involvement with athletes in action in college. But I got plugged in became a coach out at UCLA. So I moved across the country as a graduate assistant, ended up getting hired as a full-time coach there. I got plugged in with athletes in action there and got discipled, and the Lord changed my life through it. And so after coaching for about 4.5 years at UCLA, the Lord, felt like he was calling me to full-time ministry. So I left coaching at UCLA in 2022 and joined staff with Athletes in Action. And now I'm here as full-time staff. This is my first UTC, zero experience with the camp and the special. So I'm going in pretty blind, and I'm excited for it.
My name is Breezy Burnett. I am a softball player at the University of Minnesota, and I'm going into my junior year. And I have been affiliated with Athletes in Action for 2 years now. I started my freshman year, and I just finished up my sophomore year. And my Amanda, that works with Athletes in Action, introduced us to this, so I'm really excited and kind of scared. But
Love it. Okay, so our first question, let's just kind of start with, obviously we're at UTC. You guys talked a little bit about your involvement in AIA, but what actually led you to come to UTC as a student athlete, as a staff member? Why did you decide to come?
I decided to come because I think my walk with faith has been a little shaky. Since I've been affiliated with Athletes in Action, I've gone through some hardships and kind of turned away and run away from God, and I've just been feeling uncertain. So when I heard about UTC and like heard from other athletes that have experienced it and them leaving with a certainty, it was on my heart to come and find out for myself.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit different because motivation's not as an athlete so much anymore. But I think the big thing is, I mean, one, working with staff people who have been a part of it for a long time. So I've just heard a lot about it. And I think the biggest thing, motivation for me to want to come as staff is the opportunity, I think, to give what I didn't receive when I was in college, like things that I really just have heard about that I'm like, man, if I had had that when I was in college, like that'd change my life. Like that would have changed my perspective on everything. Yeah. But instead I went through 4 years of approaching sport in a really unhealthy way. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think for me, I'm just fired up to get to have any small piece of helping shape someone else's view towards sport and finding a healthy balance to be able to enjoy it and the way that God's created it for.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about, what do you guys know about the special? I feel like I didn't have much of an idea about it coming in, except that it was really hard. So I'm just curious, like, what you guys know about it. Obviously there can be expectations formed. So I'm just kind of curious where you guys are at right now going into it.
Yeah, I mean, what I know about it is I feel like I've heard a lot about the experience itself. So like things that happen during it, as far as like the way that the Lord moves spiritually. I feel like I've heard a lot of those stories, but as far as like what it actually is, other than a long workout and maybe some vague ideas of like what some of the stuff will look like, and knowing that there's a Golgotha run at the end. Mm-hmm. I feel like, it's just long and you have a team, and I mean, I feel like that's kind of the things I know about it. Like it's pretty vague, and I'm just kind of viewing it as a long workout that we're going to be doing a lot of different things as a team.
Yeah, I agree with him fully. I also know like a little bit like the expectation like go higher in a way. Like I heard like the interns and the staff is more hard on you. Like I went to the captain's meeting and I thought I was in boot camp all of a sudden. I was like, now I'm kind of scared. And it was just a lot of competition, and like that's really all I know. So
do you have like any nerves or like reservations going into it after, like, I guess from what you know, and then kind of seeing as a captain like how seriously they're treating it and like that, like how are you feeling in terms of those?
I have nerves really about like just like staying composed, I think, and not getting frustrated. Like I think the staff getting hard on me, like I'll do okay with, but just knowing, like reading through the list, I was like, okay, like that's not that bad. And then I'm like, oh wow, like that's a lot of stuff, and you have to like, you still have to compete. So just knowing like that your team is still counting on you, but like focusing on the biggest W is like, that is really like kind of nerve wracking to me, but exciting at the same time.
That's good.
Yeah. I feel like I have a few different expectations or nerves or feelings as I go into this. One of those is also just being older. I mean, I've been out of sport for a while. I still train and do stuff, but not to probably the same level. So I mean, even just playing the first round of volleyball, I can feel the knees creaking a little bit, and you guys will know that one day. So, so that's definitely one is just like, how am I going to hold up in it? And I think there's definitely some nerves on just like, how am I going to fare in it? How am I going to, I think, like how am I going to approach it? Like, am I going to be able to handle these things in a healthy way? Like, will there be moments where I get broken? And if so, good. But like, just kind of curious of what the Lord's going to use it for. I think I kind of go into it pretty open-handed, but I think my biggest nerves are more of just like the physical side of like, if I'm going to hold up or not. Yeah.
Well, you talk about like the ways that the Lord will work. That was the next question we had, that like, is there any ways that you think the Lord might work? Places in your heart, like you're in sport right now. are there any things in your sport that you've realized this week that you're like, man, like maybe the Lord could really transform my heart in that, or like you could see changing in this process? I think it would be cool to like hear things that you feel like you really could be challenged in, and then after this, like reflect on how the Lord did work. And then in your position, I mean, you've just been on staff for a bit, and you aren't in a sport anymore, but in what ways do you feel like the Lord could really challenge you in this moment?
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing about the things that we learn here, the principles that we learn here, is that yes, we come to the camp to apply them to sport, but ultimately they're principles for life.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way that we approach anything, and how easily in our humanness that we can turn things into idols, whether it's work, money, relationships, anything like that. And so I think for myself, as I've even just sat through some of these things, I think, yeah, like most of these are things that I knew, right? But they're still things that the Lord's working on me in my own heart, like the way that I approach ministry. Like it's really easy, I think, to think because it's ministry, I can turn it into an idol, so to speak. Like I would never say that out loud, but you can very easily start to act that way because it's ministry. It's a good thing, but I can still make it the main thing and turn it into a God thing instead of recognizing that even over my ministry, like God is the one that does the things. Like he's the one that's working in it. And so, yeah, I think even this week, I've just kind of been convicted on ways that I've turned ministry into an idol, and kind of felt like I got my worth through the way that I approach ministry or the things that are happening in our ministry, like how many people are giving their lives to Christ and different things like that, where it's like, man, it's such a good thing, but it can't be the thing that I'm chasing after to get my approval from. So yeah, I think I'm really just approaching this special, hoping that the Lord can continue to work some of those things out of my heart. And yeah, just take some of these things back into my normal work rhythms, and even learning, I'm recently married, so like learning how to take these things into my marriage in the same way, like recognizing my wife's approval isn't the thing that gives me ultimate satisfaction, but it's who God says I am, and the truths that he places on me and the promises that he claims over me. And so, yeah, I think those are the big things that this week has kind of been drawing out of me just as staff too.
And as sport, I didn't realize as much when I came here how much I do idolize softball and that being my whole identity. And I feel like the Lord has been working on me all week. And as soon as I stepped foot in there, like I just felt uncomfortable because everybody like looked so free and happy. And I was just sitting in the back like, why are y'all so happy and like jumping up and down like that's true joy? And I was just asking for that like freedom in a way. And this week, like in the volleyball labs, like it really came out of me the first day. I was so frustrated because we were losing. Because I was like, it's like if I lose one more game, like I'm done. I can't do it no more. And then I was like, and my teammates like talked to me and pulled me in and was like, it's okay, like focus on the big W. And I was like, I like that. It's like a good, like, it's even a focal point. Like I have a focal point, and it made me look at the big W like as a focal point in a way. Because I need to focus on, like, satisfying God and not satisfying others around me, trying to be perfect, and, like, do things for validation. And I feel like I felt free this week from all of that.
Can you explain what you mean by the big dub, just so people out there can understand what we're talking about?
Yes, the big W. The little W is the trophy and the accolades and all the successes, and the big W is, like, eternal life, like after the facts. Like we're working for eternal life and like getting to be with God for the rest of our lives. Like audience of one, like we don't have to satisfy others around us or like seek validations from others, because at the end of the day it doesn't matter. Jesus still loves you for who you are and not what you do.
That's good. What is, I guess, like another question for you, what is something that you hope to take from this special experience and even just this week in general at UTC, like back to your team, back to your teammates, and like try and like give that to not only like your other teammates that may be in faith, but also those who may not be in faith?
I think honestly, being better over bitter is something that we learned and that I will definitely take, because I feel like me included, a lot of my team, like as soon as something goes wrong, like we turn on one another and like pin the game on each other instead of like coming together and like talking about it and just remembering like it's okay, like how can I word this? Like working through it with God, like, and still preaching the gospel to my teammates and like just reassuring them that it's okay, like nothing's bad's gonna happen to them. They're not gonna be judged. Like at the end of the day, we're playing for God's love, and that's it.
So, Jake, you have a little bit of a different perspective throughout the camp. Like this week, you've just been on staff, and now you're stepping into the special, whereas she's been in labs on the other side of it. And as staff and interns, we know the design for each day. What is it like being able to understand the purpose of like putting everything into the special from a different perspective instead of like experience it? You're helping put it in place. Like, you know, the whole goal of like each day and putting like kind of the steps leading up to the special. How does that help you like kind of put things in place for yourself moving into the special? Does that make sense?
A little. Maybe rephrase.
Like, what I'm trying to say is like, from her perspective, she doesn't know, like she's just going by each day.
Yeah.
Whereas like on our side, we know what each day is designed for, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, like what each lab is designed for, but you didn't get to experience that and put that into work in the labs. Yeah. You're just a part of it. You know what the process is and what each lab is meant for. And then it's about putting all that together into the special.
Yeah.
So I was just asking, like, from that kind of perspective.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, it definitely feels like, you know, as a camper, it's kind of like stepping stones, right? You're like kind of putting one principle together to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And ideally, it's like you're trying to kind of bring all those things into the special. So, yeah, I think from where I'm sitting and like, being on the back end, knowing why we're doing the things we're doing in labs, why certain things are set up the way they are. I think it's a little different because I haven't really been practicing those things, but I feel like in my journey, it kind of feels like I have been, though, in a long-term sense, like just like what the Lord's been doing in my own life. It feels like these are like, in working on staff, it's like you kind of get exposed to some of these things prior to, prior to me being here. It's like I knew all the principles because I've been on staff for 2 years, so it's like I've heard about them. So it feels like these are kind of things that like the Lord has been teaching me over time. So even though I'm not getting exposed to them here, like the campers are, it feels like they kind of have been over time. And so I feel like I think my approach to the special is still probably similar in the sense of like, I want to take these things and try to put them into practice and see what God wants to do through that. So it's a little bit different, but I think in some ways still similar because we're all kind of trying to live these things out still day to day. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Breezy. So, like, we're kind of talking through the labs and, like, putting things into practice. And I think sometimes, like, at least when I was camping, like, kind of resonated, like, it could sometimes be difficult to always, like focal point, for example, and, like, for focusing on glorifying the Lord through what you're doing. And so we put that into practice in the labs. But it can be different when, like, it's not your sport. And, like, I noticed, for example, the start of the special in volleyball earlier got way more intense compared to the labs. So I'm curious, like, to get a before and after of, like, your thoughts and how difficult it is to actually, like, take what you are learning and what we've learned and apply it to softball when you get back and, like, your real life and real performance, and, like, how difficult will it be for you to, like, refocus and focus on the Lord while you're competing at the Big Ten tournament versus at UTC and more of, like, a different environment?
That's so funny. I was thinking about that today. I was actually thinking of it as, like, when people this is probably a bad example, like are on a dating show and everything is going good and then they leave.
Yes. Wait, that's so true.
No, seriously. And I was thinking about it today. I was like, when I get out of here, it's going to be harder because I'm going to be in reality with people like that are living for the world instead of for God.
Yeah.
But it's good for me that I have like a few teammates here and then Amanda still to like turn to and look over. So like us like forming a little group, like piece by piece, I feel like we can pull people out of like the hardness, like when it gets hard, being bitter over being better and like being motivated by winning instead of by God's love and stuff like that. So I do know it'll be hard, but I do have to remember everything I learned and keep putting it into practice every day.
That's good.
All right, one last question for you guys. When you guys experience adversity or pain, you will experience pain. What is that going to look like for you guys? Any idea? Have you like thought through that? Like, man, like when I'm really broken down in this next 20 hours, like where am I going to look?
Yeah.
Am I going to point the finger? Am I going to, like, if things go wrong, if we're not winning games, like, am I going to have patience? Like, have you guys thought through those thoughts at all?
Yeah, I feel like I put a little thought into it. Probably last night, spent a little time just kind of thinking about like, all right, and praying. Just God, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing in my life right now? Like, what do you want to use this for? Because, I think he uses everything. Anything we walk through, he wants to use to draw us closer to him. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I can answer on what might happen and what I want to happen. Those could be different. I hope they're not. I hope they're the same. I think what could happen, I'm sure there's probably moments that are going to be hard to be patient. Yeah. I'm still really competitive, even when I just get out and do things. I'm not an athlete anymore, so to speak, but I still like to do a lot. Like playing volleyball, like earlier, my team started off 3-0, and then we lost the next 5. Ooh. And those next 5 were really hard. I don't think, and I think being able to like remind each other of the truths in that, like, super helpful. Even for me as an older person, like I'm still like, there's that thing in you where you can feel it pulling of like, oh, you want to get mad here. And continuing have to remind yourself of what the truth is. But I think what I want to happen is, my focal point going into it is this ring that I have on my right hand, which I've been wearing for a while, but it says, it's Galatians 2:20, that I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And so I think, when I get to the point where I feel like I'm breaking, to remember that I'm not the one that carries myself through. I'm not the one that carries myself. And I think really wanting this to be like applicable to my life. Like, yes, it's here, but like, I want to take things from here into my life. So like, I want this to mean something. I want it like this is an opportunity to like, I feel like even just have a perspective shift in my own life. And so I want to take advantage of that. And so if there's ways that God's wanting to use that, I think that's the thing that I want to be able to do and how I want to respond.
What's your truth?
My specific truth for myself is that I'm approved, because I've fought for approval for a lot of my life.
I like that.
When I'm going to face adversity and pain, I know it is going to be rough at first.
You're going to walk by me at some point and be like, you were right.
You were right. And I just know, because like I said at the beginning of the labs, I know I've been growing, but like I still have those moments of frustration, because I am competitive and I want to like kind of like be there for my team and be able to help them win and stuff. But like, again, I'm going to have to remember the bigger W, and I'm just going to have to turn to God and like just ask him to be there for me, because the uncertainty I came out with, this is why I'm here, so I can walk out with the certainty. So I'm really banking on him, and I know he's going to come through. And I just, my mom texted me, and she texted me this verse that I need, and I wrote it on my shirt. I can't remember the full thing right now. But she also told me, like, God is going to break me down, but he's going to build me right back up. Yeah. So I'm just going to have to remember that. And that's, like, literally engraved in the back of my head. Like, when he breaks me down, I know he's going to build me right back up, so I'm not going to crumble. I'm going to turn to him, and everything's going to work out.
I think that's amazing you just said that, because in our intern, like the whole special meeting we just had, talked about how the whole point of the special is to like for him to break you down and lift you back up.
Yes.
So that's really cool that you just said that.
Yes.
Well, hey, stay tuned. We will see you guys post special. Yeah. Yeah. We might be live from the hospital. Hopefully not. But yeah, thanks for being willing to do this and squeeze us in. Wish you guys the best of luck in the special, and may God work. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the second part of the episode. We are now post special. Jake and Breezy, how are we feeling?
We're here. Yeah, we're
We
feeling,
are not live from a hospital.
we're not from the hospital. That's big time. We're feeling a lot of things. The body's definitely aching, but overall pretty good spirits.
Yeah, I agree. I feel spiritually, I feel free. I feel good. Physically, I feel a little beat up, but like Jake said, we're here, we're alive, and we're blessed. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, what is your guys' initial reflection upon the special and how it impacted you guys?
Like I said, it was very freeing for me and fulfilling. It was rough. Like all the physical activity was very hard, but it was all worth it. Like I wouldn't change a thing. It really helped me and really made me rely and lean on God and really helped me find the Lord again. So that was good.
Yeah, I was interested to see kind of what God was going to do with it. Being staff, kind of like not playing sport anymore, kind of seeing like how much does this really apply to my life? And I think, I was probably surprised, I think, with how much he did in it. And just the nature of suffering and how that connects us, I think, with, the heart of Christ, because that's something that he invites us to follow him in. And so for me, I think spiritually, I felt like I reached, a different place than I've been before, even in my own life. And, I think just the way that coming to like the end of yourself when you know you have nothing left, and how God moves through that, was definitely something really cool to experience. So I think, God did a lot. And I think it feels like there's like, a good few weeks of just kind of processing and really trying to digest the things that he was doing.
That's awesome. Before we kind of get into, we can talk a little bit more about the way that God moved in your guys' life and throughout this experience. What are some of the challenges that you guys face, and like walk us through kind of the difficult parts for you guys of the special?
And you mean more like physically or both?
Both.
Okay. Physically, the pool was brutal. Cramps were much of a thing. I think I cramped like 5 times in the pool. So
I have a sick picture of you in the pool.
Really?
That I screenshot. That
Let's
I found.
go.
Yeah.
I need to see this.
I gotta show you this.
I think I cramped like 5 times. And we had like, our team was struggling in that too. So, oh, come on. Come on.
It's a sweet picture.
That's sick. You just send that to me.
Yeah, I will.
Our team was struggling a little bit. So we had there's a few times where I had to probably 4 or 5 times in a row where I had to go twice on relays. Mm-hmm. And so that definitely, that was probably one of the, I don't want to say dark, probably darkest moments as far as physically, felt like I was like, man, I'm in a hole.
That was another question we had, is what was that breaking point for you where you're like, I don't have anymore?
There was a few of those. I think I'll stay on the hard thing though right now and pass it before. But I think the hard moments of just physically breaking, getting to a place where you're just like, I've got nothing left. Mm-hmm. the pool was for sure one of those, the bonus time at the end of the night. That sucked.
But you knew that was coming, right?
I didn't know that was coming. I purposely didn't look. So I had the sheet.
Didn't know her.
I didn't go to the meetings.
Wow.
This is my first camp, and then I purposely didn't go to any of the, like when they had like a special staff meeting, I didn't go to any of those because I didn't want to know.
Yeah,
so, and then they sent out
awesome.
that document, and I remember we were making our shirts, and I got the document, and I was like, I just flipped my phone over. I was like, I don't want to know. I was like, no one else knows, so I don't need to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those were a few of the moments.
Ooh, definitely the pool. That humbled me. I remember telling you at breakfast, like, that's where I met Jesus yesterday.
Yeah,
like,
you did.
Yeah, I was in the pool, and I had, like, tricked myself into some delusion thinking, like, I'm a really good swimmer. And I got in that pool, and I got down in there, I got halfway back, and I was like, I think I'm going to drown. Like, I was like, God, please just get me to the other end. And I finally got there, and I was just crying. I was like, oh my gosh, like, please get me through the rest of this, God. Like, I have nothing left in my body to go. And I would not have been able to do that without Jesus, because I really thought that was the end for me.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because there were multiple people that were like, yeah, I thought I was going to conquer the pool, and I was very humbled. Did you guys play basketball first or pool first?
I swam first.
Basketball first.
Jake swam, and then, okay. Yeah, I did basketball to swim, and that was hard.
Yeah.
And our basketball player was down for the count, so he didn't even swim. But, well, yeah, like you kind of talked about your hardest moment, but you say you had multiple. Can you dive deeper into that? And then what kind of your actions were in that? Like, what action did you take?
Yeah, so the pool. So I went pool to basketball after. So the pool was the first one, and that was, I think I actually I'm a pretty strong swimmer. I wasn't a swimmer, but like I've just swam a lot. I did lessons when I was a kid, but then like my wife trains for triathlon, so I try to go swim with her some. And I feel like I've just always been kind of a decent swimmer. I surf, so paddle strength, things like that. Like I do a little bit of that. So going into the pool, like I felt pretty confident, and I think just like the nature of the things we were doing with, like, you have no control over cramping, you have no control over those things, and so it's like having to give your effort, and like not being able to like control when you're like, man, I'm halfway down the pool and I'm cramping up, and I know I'm a good swimmer, but I look like a terrible swimmer right now, and like that was humbling. And so I definitely reached a point where I was like, I feel like every time I kick my legs hard, like I'm probably gonna cramp. And then, like I said, like when I doubled up on like 3 or 4 of them, and definitely I hit a wall where I was like, I think it was like the last one we did, I was like, if I go double again, like I don't know if I'm getting out of the water. Like, but I like also was like, I'm trying to go hard, like I don't want to not like give effort for my team. And so I remember on the last one, I just sat in the pool after I finished my like down and back. I just sat in the pool and started praying, and was just like, Lord, I'm really hoping I don't have another one, but if I do, like I can't do without you. And I remember like I would like started crying, just sitting there, just like tearing up right now. I started crying, and I just like, I think just like, and the other thing with the pool was the people watching was like one of the biggest challenges for me, because I kept looking at them and like felt like I wanted to do it because people were watching me, and kept having to fight. And so like my focal point was my ring. I don't know if did we talk about that on the first one? Yeah, so we talked about that. And so, like I remember like really tangibly having to keep going to like, it doesn't matter what what people are seeing. It doesn't matter if they see me doing a good job, if they see me giving good effort, like I'm approved because of who God says I am, my identity, Him. And so, that was definitely a dark moment for sure, but like such a good moment with the Lord, and how He met me in the pool there. And then, the other one was the bonus time for sure. I also like did something to my leg, so my like left shin was like all swollen up and like pretty crushed at the end of the night. And I remember every one of those sprints, I was just like praying the whole way through. And just like, yeah, because I was like physically, if this was any other time, I feel like physically I'd just be like, yeah, I'm done. Like my legs like swollen, and like it's a pretty good reason to stop doing something. But yeah, it just was like, like I'm trusting it's not going to be anything too bad, and I think God's going to protect me in this, and so I'm just going to keep going. And he did. So it actually feels really good today, which is cool. But
I guess you kind of answered this already as well, but we can ask you, Breezy, like where did you feel God's presence throughout the special, and like what was that feeling like for you?
I did definitely feel it in the pool, and I felt it. My best friend and teammate was here, and we were taking the test on paper, and I hear screaming, and I'm like, who is that? And I turned around, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Maggie. Yeah. So I started freaking out, because like, she's tough. And like, it was hard for me to like see her just on the ground, like screaming like for help. And I couldn't really do anything. So I was like, oh my gosh, like just praying over her, praying, like making sure she'll be okay. And for some reason, like God like just calmed me down for her, because she was in so much pain, and it like really hurt me to see her like that, because she's like my rock almost. So I just wanted to get through the rest for her. I was like, if she don't make it out, I got to do it for us. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys talking about kind of low points. You could call them high points because you experienced the Lord in cool ways. But what was the high point for you guys? Like, that was just like a great moment. Maybe you weren't hurting super bad, but it was like just a great moment.
My high point was after the obstacle course. And we were doing the piggyback down. And I was with one of my teammates, and she carried me, and I was like, I feel like I'm going to crush her. And she carried me down like no other. So I was going down, and she was reminding me, like, what's my truth? And I kept saying it, like, I'm free from expectation. And next thing I know, I was at the end of the field. And, like, after that, like, I just hugged her, because it was, like, so special to, like, go through that with her and, like, have somebody on my side and not worry about anything else. I wasn't worried about anybody watching me. I was just worried about God, like, being there for me and, like, putting his arms around us to let us finish. And it felt so good to be free from everything.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah, I feel like there was a few high points, but I'd probably say I don't know, because I feel like there's team high points and there's personal high points. But I feel like my personal high point was probably the Golgotha run for sure. I think, like just going through that entire run and just spinning it with the Lord. I feel like just the accumulation of the 20 hours, I feel like everything kind of was hitting me a little bit. And, I think just like it felt like this concrete realization of something I feel like I've been working on a really long time, as far as just like really believing that I am approved in the eyes of God. And something where it's like you find these moments where it like feels a little more real and a little more real. And I just feel like that was another one of these like moments that it just felt a little more cemented into my heart of like, I really am approved. Like it really doesn't matter what I do. Right. And I think just like a deeper level of like, believing that, I think it was really cool. So that Golgotha run was really great. And I hate running, so that tells you something.
You guys are just like segueing into our questions perfectly. It's amazing. So kind of walk us through like, and you guys can go a little bit deeper into like your actual process of relying on God. What did that look like throughout the entirety of the special? Like, did it get easier as time went on? Was it more difficult as time went on? You get tired, you're mentally, physically, spiritually drained. Like, what did that look like for you?
At first, it was really hard because my truth is I am free from all expectations. So I came into it like, especially like that I was a captain. I was like people are relying on me. Like I have to be strong. Like I have to do it for them. Like I have to do the extra stuff. But like, and I wanted to win. Like I was thinking about winning at the time in the beginning. Then I was like, it really doesn't matter. Like I'm free from the expectation. Like no matter what I do, if I fail, get back up, keep going. Like I'm still loved, like by everybody, by God, by my teammates. So I wasn't really worried about anything like that. And then as the process went on, like I was really only focused on God's presence and my teammates. And I have never felt that ever. Like in softball, like I'm so worried about how people perceive me, my family, my friends, everything. And at that moment, I was like, I gave it all to God and was only focused on his audience.
Yeah, I probably would agree with a lot of that. I think it was just really cool to, I think just like practice tangibly shifting in your mind and your spirit when you felt those desires to like, to look to the crowd, to look to even your teammates. Like it's great. Like I think so encouraging, I think, to have a team, but at the same time, like even that like was a temptation just to like look to them like, oh, I'm doing this for my team, which in itself like isn't bad, but not the main thing. And so I think for me, like continuing to even like your own teammates saying like, hey, don't look to us, like look to God. And like, what's your focal point? Like, what are you thinking of? Like, don't do it for us. Don't do it for anyone else. Like, do it for him. And not to earn anything, but because you've already earned it all. But I also think that like watching my teammates, that was also something that I was like so encouraged by. Like Team 2, you guys rock. They crushed it.
Shout out
like,
Team 2.
Come on. They crushed it though, and like just watching their attitudes, I also like was like, man, like felt so encouraged to like, follow suit with some of the things they were doing. Like moments where when I was down, they had energy. When they were down, I had like just like how God used each other in that was really cool. And like we like I'm thinking of basketball, especially. We had 2 girls that played basketball, and like they got energy out of nowhere. Like we're all coming out of the pool and we're smoked, and they stepped on the court, and it was just like, what are you like? Where are you getting this from? It fired me up. I was like, I'm struggling, and like they're out here just getting after it.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, good. Well, if you could look back to one situation that you would maybe like change how you dealt with something and like frustration, or like just could go back and be like, hey, like I maybe would have dealt with that situation in a different manner, what would that be? I know, Jake, I heard when we got in the groups after the relay race and kind of like asking for forgiveness and like apologizing. Yeah. I heard you say to your team something about leadership and not letting the captains lead. Yeah. I'd like to hear about that, but also, what's that one moment that you wish you could go back and maybe be like, man, I would have handled that different?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you asked the question, that was the thing that popped up for me. So that's what I was going to share, which I think was such a cool thing for them to like remind, like to do, like to have that moment to practice asking for forgiveness. Because we're all going to make mistakes. But mine was the moment that if I could go back, like something I would, and something I'm learning from is, like I enjoy leading. That's something I feel like God has gifted me in some ways in. But with that, it's very easy to become like prideful or like want to take control of like, oh, no one's saying anything here. Like I'm going to step in and do it. And no part of me wanted to be a captain, right? I wanted our captains to have that experience. But even then, there was still just this, like, when something was going on and no one was saying something, I'm like, hey, like, you need to be saying something. Like, you need to talk to the ref. You need to do this. And even, like, off the bat, ultimate Frisbee, I was like, not talking to the refs ate me up. Because I was like, they're doing some things that, like, they don't even know the rules. And I was getting so mad. I was like, this is not what the sheet said. And so every part of me was just getting eaten up. And, like, off the bat, the Lord was like, what are you doing? Like, you're like, it's not your job to lead right now. But like I learned a lot in that, and it's been a theme, and even this year, I think how God's been kind of, humbling me, and like even like knowing, really, I think knowing what leadership is too. It's not always having to talk, but actually knowing when not to talk, and knowing that like most often leadership looks like serving, not like being in the front. And so I think there was just another thing that God's kind of been showing me. And, but yeah, I definitely, at the end of it, I had to ask for forgiveness from the captains, because there was for sure a few moments where I was like, hey, like trying to just like help them do things. And, so that was tough for me. It was tough to not want to do that.
Sorry, Team 19 again. At Jet, I'm so sorry. Mine was also in Ultimate Frisbee. I was getting so frustrated. Specifically, playing Team 19, there's like 3 dudes, like at least 6'4" up. Like one of them's guarding me, and I'm like, okay, like he's jumping up for every pass I go for. And like he kind of knocked the wind out of me. So I was like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, hit me again. And I really had to check myself. I was like, what am I going to do right now? Like, remember. And then I had said something to the ref. And he said, are you even a captain? I was like, yes, I'm a captain. Are you a captain? And then after that, like, the game ended, I was like, I didn't even want to shake his hand. And then yesterday, like, he was like, if you need to ask for forgiveness, I just put my head down. I was like, I already know what I have to go do. I felt so bad, but he felt bad. We hugged it out. And, like, it was like I had to put myself in check in that moment also, because, like, sometimes in softball, like, when I'm getting chirped at, like, I chirp back. Like, I can't contain my emotions. And that's another thing I was, like, grateful for, to be able to check myself the one time, like, let everything go for the rest and just ask God for forgiveness, repent, and learn from my mistakes.
That's good. So kind of going off of what you're talking about, like, what are a few things? Obviously, we're not even like 24 hours out from the specials, so you have a lot more like reflection and stuff you'll learn. But what are some like initial things that you guys have been able to take away already? And you're like, oh yeah, like I'm going to take that back to softball and apply that, or I'm going to take that back to ministry and life and apply those things.
I think the biggest takeaway for me was my biggest takeaway was definitely reminding myself of my focal point. Again, I said that in the pre-special podcast, but yesterday when I really like needed to calm myself down, like looking at my focal point and reminding me like I am loved, Jesus died for me. Like I really need to go back and take that into softball and like speak it through my teammates too. Like it's okay, like we are free, and reminding them of my truth and hopefully like guiding them to help them find their truth is my biggest thing that I hope I can do for them.
Yeah, I think the focal point's a big one. Yeah, I think like just really having a tangible reminder of like who God is and who God says I am through the midst of anything. And like, I think going to inside game, like that's the motivation for everything. So I think personally, like in my own heart, that's for sure the biggest thing is like, and wanting just to continue to meditate on my truth, like meditate on the fact that I'm approved, secure, loved, like all the truths, like, and like at an even deeper level, like, cause I think you feel what God wants to do when you're in the special. Like you feel like what he's trying to like get you to know and like to believe. And it's like, but we're never going to really fully be there. And so it's like this is just a glimpse of what he really thinks, right? Like just a taste. And it's like, there's so much more to be experienced. And so like desiring that, and making space for that, I think is a big thing. And then other thing, actually, I think that feels really, like a really cool thing that I literally just like was kind of thinking about today, was the power of affirmation. And I'm like, I just kind of started thinking, I was like, imagine if we took the way that we talk to each other here into our day-to-day life. Like imagine if I just walked around to the people I see, I'm just like, what's your truth? Right? And like, but not in like a cheesy way, but in like serious, like, hey, like, what do you believe about yourself?
Yeah.
And like, what if I called out in the people in my community group. Like, yeah, we study the word and we do affirm, but right, like, but what if I made it as intentional as it is here in my community? Like, what if I was like, when I'm talking to someone, like the first thing I'm thinking is just like, how can I remind them of who they are? And I think that was something I was like, man, that would be like, if I had a community of people doing that, it'd be amazing. Yeah. Like, that would be the kingdom. And that's like that idea of bringing heaven onto earth.
Right.
I think that was like, I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah. Sweet. Thanks for sharing that, guys. One last question I have for you guys. If you would recommend UTC to one person or to any, if you would recommend it to someone, what would you say?
Why not? I mean,
expand on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think,
like, hey, you need to go to UTC and because of this, you know?
Yeah, I think I would say that you need to go to UTC because you're more than your sport. And as much as you want to believe that in your head, sometimes it takes the mountaintop moments to really like secure that in your heart, right? You can know things in your head, but it doesn't always mean they're founded in your heart. And I don't think UTC is the thing that will like make that happen, but I think it is a catalyst for that to happen. I think it is a spark for this fire to ignite in you of what your purpose really is here. And so I think this is like, that's the best way I go describe UTC, is that like it is an amazing spark that can lead to like so much fruit in people's like sport when it's approached the right way. So I would say do it, because like I don't really know where else you're gonna get that, like as far as like a camp atmosphere. Like there's a lot of great camps out there, but as far as things of like, man, I'm gonna grow in my sport in the way that I approach it, like I don't really know many other places that do it like this. And so I think if you're an athlete, like I think it'll change your life.
Yeah, I think he hit it right on the nail. I would say it's not only life-changing, but I would say, like, if you want to experience true joy and true freedom, like, to come to this camp and let God show you his presence and show you how real he really is. That's it, really. Yeah.
Well, sweet. Thanks for sharing, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for making the time to do this. Kellen, do you have any last thoughts?
It was amazing. So good. Like, I want to thank you guys again, like he said, for doing this. And it's so cool, like, sitting here and hearing your guys' reflections and, like, what you guys are saying. I'm like, wow, it's so mind-blowing. And, like, I love what you were saying about, like, the truth and community. And, like, I'm stealing that from you. I'm going to take that to my team. And, like, we have a solid Bible study group of, like, 17 girls on my team, which is incredible. And I'm going to, first meeting when I get back this summer, we're going to go through these truths, because not everybody's been to UTC. Most of them have, but we're going to go through these truths. Everybody's going to pick one out, and we are going to remind each other every single day about them. So I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for taking 2 different times to help us put this together. I know people are really excited to hear this already. And I think it'll be awesome for people to hear about the special who haven't done it. Well, thank you guys again for being here. I appreciate you guys taking the time to record 2 different times, and for just walking us through your experience in the special. And thanks for listening to the first podcast collab with Kellen. And thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate the love and support. We will see you guys all again next week.